Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video it's a little bit different from what you've been seeing from me so far. I would say probably about a year ago we had one of our friends from London up for a visit, and he came into the salon and saw my competition box sets and decided he'd quite like one for himself, but he wanted a medical type sort of box set because he's a paramedic. So after about a year of not getting round to it, I decided, just as we were coming out of lockdown, that I really ought to spend some time getting this box set ready for him, since he'd moved into a new flat and wanted it for his walls. So here we are, a year later, I actually got it done. So I'm just here sorting out my background for the set. I'm using my Mystic Nails gel polish White Wedding, and also Be Creative pigments, and just blending those in and colouring the background. Absolutely love using pigments for this type of thing, gives it lots of depth. And I'm trying to do a little bit of an ombre around the tips rather than down the tips, so I thought the pigments would be absolutely fantastic for that. Missed a couple of spots here, so I'm just going back in with my Flexi Builder base just to give the nail another little tacky layer to adhere the pigment to. It's been a long day, bear with me. It's just been one of those days where everything just sort of happened and my brain's gone to a little bit of a mush. So hopefully I'll make it through this voiceover, but we shall see. So once I've done my pigment lay-in, I'm going in with Mystic Nails Matte and Go, just to give the background a matte appearance rather than a glossy one. I wanted a little bit of a difference in texture with the, I keep calling it Offal, but you know, all the insides. The guy that commissioned this set is, as I say, a paramedic, and he wanted like a medical dummy type sort of design on there, so I wanted a difference between a matte background and then obviously the organs inside a body are generally quite shiny because of the moisture in a body, so I wanted a glossy appearance to those. So anyway, that's the reason why I wanted a matte background. So there we go, background done. Here's my reference sheet. So I wanted to do a little bit of a blue man. I keep calling him Mr. Offal Man. So he's all like a shadow. Now you just use some Legrand white and some clear to kind of ombre his skin. And here's my Legrand paints from Mystic Nails. I always use these for any sort of gel painting because they blend so beautifully. So I'm just mixing my palette up here for his innards, his lungs and heart and liver and pancreas, and it's amazing what you learn when you do art. Never really knew where all these organs fitted in a body before, but now I do. So I'm starting on the lungs, making them nice and pink. Healthy lungs are nice and pink. So I'm just building my colour up here, using red and white mixed to make a nice shade of pink. So if you can hear any noise in the background, we've got an internet provider laying some new cabling down the road, and yeah, they make a lot of noise while they're digging and cutting blocks, and it's all block paving down our street, so they're having to cut block paving in half and such, so making rather a lot of noise. Not happy, but what can you do? You gotta have internet, right? So just painted one lung in, and put it into the lamp. The Legrand paints, I always put everything into the lamp for 60 seconds. It's just my way, then I'm not having to think about whether it's 30 seconds, 50 seconds, 60 seconds, whatever. I always cure for 60 seconds. Different brands have different timings. Obviously you use the lamp to that brand, but it's just easier for me just to think, right, I'll just do everything at a minute, rightly or wrongly. So I'm just putting some shading in here, going in with a deeper pink. Lungs are quite rounded, so you want to give a rounded appearance to a rounded shape. So I'm just going in with some deeper pinks and reds to shade in some shadows, and then I'll go back in with lighter pinks and white to create some highlights. Whenever I'm gel painting, all I'm thinking all the time is light and shadow. Where there is light, there's always going to be shadow, and just making sure that you get both elements in to create the illusion of the shape that you're painting. So here I am going in with my lights, a little bit of light pink around that lung. I'm blending it with my orange brush. I tend to use orange brush on larger pieces. If I were doing a portrait, I tend to use a liner brush. But yeah, I love the orange brush from rebeccaorme.co.uk and Be Creative. I've got about 3 of them, so that shows you just how much I love them. So next up, lungs have got these weird little veiny things in them, so I'm just popping those in. And here's a little time after I've finished my lungs. Hang on, let's see what there is. There's lungs, heart, liver, pancreas, stomach and diaphragm there. There you go, blinding you with my medical knowledge. Yeah, that's about the extent of my medical knowledge, so we'll leave it there. So next we're going into the small intestine, large intestine, down into the nether regions, we'll call it. Never ever thought I'd be painting an anus onto nail tips, but here I am, doing just that. So making it nice and pink, as we tend to be quite pink on the inside. So yeah, it's all gel painting from here, so I'll let you watch in peace and then I'll pop back on when we get to the 3D part. Okay, enjoy! So that's my painted part all completed. I'm now starting to build up the 3D element of this box set. So I'm building up all of the organs in acrylic on the back of a foam backing paper. Use a foam backing paper because it's nice and shiny, and you can lift the acrylic up off of that without it sticking to it. So I'm just going in with the larynx and the pipey bit. I can't remember what that one's called. Help me out. But yeah, the thing that goes down into your chest when your airways. So yeah, so just building that up with acrylic. Now, I've seen this process before in previous videos, so it's just a matter of working in small beads, popping the bead down, waiting for it to go slightly matte, and then it's mouldable and you can push and press it into place wherever you want it. And the good thing about working in this sort of method is you can layer as well. So if you feel something needs a little bit more depth, you can go back and pop a bit more acrylic on there and mould it round and blend it in. So I've done my larynxy, pipey, tubey thing, and I'm building the heart now for the centre of the chest cavity. And so just building up a little bit of a base for the heart, for the lungs to go around. And just waiting for it to go a little bit matte. And coming in with a little bit extra there. So with the lungs being quite large, I've switched my brush over from a petite brush to a size 8 brush. That's just so that I can pick up larger pieces of acrylic, larger beads of acrylic. I'm just moulding that into shape of a lung and using my reference paper. And just using the tip of my brush to make any sort of adjustments around the edges, any indentations that I feel that's needed. Just making sure it's all nice and neat and smooth. Because we're going to be painting these, we need to make sure that that acrylic is nice and smooth. So here we go, going in with the next lung. Just patting and pressing and stroking and just smoothing out and making sure it's exactly where I want it to be. Adding a little bit extra if it's needed. I felt that bottom lobe were a little bit high, so I just wanted a little bit more in there. So I'm just smoothing it over, making sure it's all nice and smooth, ready for the paint. Okay, just making the heart a little bit bigger because I felt it were a little bit small. So I've switched back to my precise brush. I think this is a 3D Petite from CJP. I've got a couple of 3D brushes that I use, and I sort of swap and change them depending on how precise I want to be. One's slightly larger than the other, so but I love this little brush, it's great. So again, coming in with my size 8 just to smooth a little bit. And when I'm wanting to smooth, I tend to pick up small wetter beads and then smooth that over, and that tends to smooth the acrylic out. So as you see, I switch from one brush to the other occasionally depending on what I'm working on. I don't stick to just one brush. So there you go, just making it all nice, and it's like a wraparound part to this long, so I'm just putting that in at the top. There you go, so that's my lungs sorted. Next I need to go on to the liver, and the diaphragm kind of surrounds the liver, the pancreas and the stomach, so I want to do the inner parts first and then I'll surround them with the diaphragm. It's all about trying to see in the reference picture the 3D element, what looks as though it's behind and what looks as though it's coming more forward, and then working out what you need to do first before you do the foreground. So that's one part of my liver sorted. And then I'm moving on to the second part of the liver there. Okay, so again I'm just going to pop some music on, let you watch along, and I shall see you in a little while. So I'm just finishing up the, what do you call that, small intestine here with the 3D. I'm just making lots of little lines and kind of scrunching them up into wiggly worms, for want of a better word. I've just gone back onto the liver and there to put an edge on, and then I'm coming back in with the large intestine. It's a similar process to the larynx and the tubey thing, and lots of little beads of acrylic and squishing them together to make the large intestine. Just pushing and pulling it all together, waiting for it to go a little bit matte, which is when it's at its maximum mouldable stage, and then popping that into place and pushing and pulling and patting into place. So there we go, just making sure that that's all done. So a little time later, I've finished my large intestine, and then I'm on to painting the innards, the offal. I really don't know what to call them. The organs, there we go, painting the organs. So yeah, just making sure that I've got all my colours in there, all my lines, all my details, with my lights and darks, highlights and shades. I'm going to top gloss these as well. Although Le Grande is quite a shiny gel once it's dried, it doesn't have an inhibition layer, which is fantastic for this kind of thing, because you don't want your gel painting to be sticky at all. If it's sticky, then obviously dust and fibres can stick into it, which you don't want when you're putting it on a piece of art. So here I am, just mixing up colour for the intestines part. I'm just dumping a load of colour on there, just making sure I get into all the nooks and crannies. So I've moved over onto my purple brush from Be Creative, which is a larger brush, and just filling in all those nooks and crannies, as I say, making sure I get into every part. Getting it in there, just checking, I'm covering it from every angle. As this box set is going on our friend's wall in his flat, so I want to make sure that every element is covered, no matter which angle you look at the box set. You can't see any white showing through. There we go, just making sure every last little bit is covered over, and then curing that. So there's my little bits, and then onto the large intestine. Again, making sure that's all covered over. I don't want any white showing. So this is quite a delicate piece of acrylic because it is so thin. So you've got to be careful that you're not too rough with it, that you break edges off and ruin what you've already done. So it is a matter of it's a balance between getting the paint on there and getting it into all the corners and such without snapping anything off. I'm just working my way around. The Grand is great because it will cover in one coat as well. And I don't need to go back in over that. The one coat is plenty. So when I get so far, I'll pop that into the lamp because I don't want to be touching wet gel. I really don't want to be touching wet gel, that's how we give ourselves allergies, so I'm just being careful not to let that get onto my skin. So in the lamp it goes, so I can hold on to it from the other side then. There you go, can touch it now, it's all dry. As I say, it doesn't leave an inhibition layer. I'm just making sure it's all covered over. There you go. Next up, once that's secured, I want to put my lights and highlights and shades in there as well, so I'm just coming in with a little bit of brown and black and just making sure that those segments of the intestine are all separated. So there we go, just about finished. Just need to put my highlights in and stick them all together. And that's my finished box set. So I hope you enjoyed this one, guys. As I say, a little bit of a departure from what you normally see in. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, please like, share and subscribe, and I shall see you in the next one. Take care, bye!